Turning now to the race for the White House, where the big question on everyone's mind right now is not just who will be president, but when we'll know.
Now, thinking back to 2020, it took 4 days to call the election. It wasn't until Saturday morning, after the polls closed and the final tally was determined in Pennsylvania, that we knew Joe Biden had won. Part of that was because of the pandemic. More Americans were voting by mail than ever before. Social distancing slowed operations in some offices. But it was also a very tight race, especially in key battleground states that ultimately decided the election, like Pennsylvania, a state both campaigns have been hitting hard in the final days.
This year, Pennsylvania's top election official Al Schmidt says he expects more than 30% of his voters in his state to vote by mail. But here's the catch. State law prevents election officials from opening and processing mail-in ballots until 7 a.m. on Election Day. Notably, a key difference from how we count ballots in Washington, where ballots have been sorted for weeks.
It leads to a perception that things are delayed in Pennsylvania. And they're not delayed at all. It's just the process.
A similar law in Wisconsin bars pre-processing of mail-in ballots ahead of time, while in Arizona, verifying signatures on early ballots can cause delays. In Nevada, a different challenge. Ballots get counted up to 4 days after the election, so as long as they're postmarked by November 5th, all potentially resulting in a days-long gap between when the polls close and when the race is finally called.
Mail-in voting has been happening in Washington for quite a while, and like we mentioned, the way that they tabulate votes here in our state is a bit different than other states.
So joining us now to talk about exactly what happens today is our state's top election official, Secretary of State Steve Hobbs. Great to have you here this morning.
Good to be here. Makes me feel good about my state after the report that you just gave.
Yeah, so there's a lot happening, and every state is different in how they tabulate these ballots. Tell us what happens in Washington. We know that 3 million people have already turned in their ballots. What happens after that, after the ballots get turned into those drop boxes or get mailed in?
So nothing is, officially counted until 8 p.m. on Tuesday, which will happen today.
Yep.
And so what's great about this state, unlike some other states, as you report, is like some states, you mail in the ballot, but it has to be there right on Election Day, not this state. It has to be postmarked. That is very, very important. And so I just want to emphasize the fact that if you're holding on to your ballot, which you shouldn't have done, make sure that if you put it in the mailbox, your mail carrier hopefully did not show up yet. I would emphasize that you go to a drop box today.
If it's today, just to make sure, right?
Absolutely.
And to emphasize what you said, no one knows how anyone has voted to this point. They may have received the ballot. They've just been sorting them for weeks. The envelopes have not revealed who's voted.
Right. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows until tonight. We were just talking about election security, a huge part of all of this year. The fires in the ballot drop box really threw your office into a new territory there. How do we ensure ballot drop boxes are safe, and what are you doing for election security?
So this form of domestic terrorism, we went into crisis mode right away, and working with our local counties, especially Clark County, where this was affected, assisting with them. They immediately set up 24-hour surveillance on these drop boxes. There's 22 drop boxes in there. Of course, increased patrols from law enforcement, both county and the state patrol. And of course, reported just recently, the National Guard is on standby in case anything bad should happen in the Clark County area.
In terms of threats to elections officials and elections offices, I mean, we've seen this in the past. Has anything like that happened in this election cycle so far, and what has been done to make sure that election workers are safe?
Right. So in this state, we just recently passed a law that says it's a Class C felony to harass our election workers. We do see that online. There's been threats on me. Previous Secretary of State Kim Wyman had her life threatened. So we're always we're always vigilant about these kind of threats.
We had something earlier in the show from your office about this new milestone. Yesterday, a certain number of registered voters put us over the 5 million mark in terms of registered voters. How do you feel about that? What does that say here about Washington State?
I think it's great. I mean, our state is amazing. I'm not just saying it because I'm your Secretary of State. It's true. I mean, the way it's a vote by mail state, the convenience of your home 18 days before the election, these are all great things to allow our citizens to access to the ballot box. So reaching that 5 million goal was fantastic. And I think it's driven, too, by the national politics and the politics in the state. 3 open congressional seats. We haven't had an open governor's seat in, for 3 terms for 16 years, and so you got other seats as well. So it's really driving the voter registration.
Real quick before you go, voter turnout, it's 56% this morning. It was 75 back in 2020. Are we slow on the slow side? How do you see things landing
So we
tonight?
predict an 80% voter turnout when it's all said and done. If you look at the primary, we thought the same thing. Wow, the turnout's low. But then we had a deluge of ballots that came in the last couple of days. Really, it is driven by what's happening in the state with the open seats and, of course, the national politics going on and the initiatives that are happening on the ballot.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll see more people turning in their ballots today, even if they're getting them in the last minute. Steve Hobbs, appreciate your time.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.